I get it, you're scrolling through a dozen pool tables, trying to picture a 6-foot wide slab of slate in your living room. And the thought of spending a couple $1,000 on something that might not fit or might end up looking like a cheap afterthought is nagging at you. Maybe you've already set up a game night with friends, and the old folding table just isn't cutting it. Or you're thinking about adding a bit of retro flair to a home office. Either way, the decision feels bigger than just buy a table. Link is in the description if you want to check the product details on Amazon. I've spent the last few weeks actually walking through a couple of setups, measuring doorways, checking floor levels, talking to a couple of installers, so let's break down whether the Playcraft Willow bin 7-foot slate table makes sense for you, or if it's a gamble you'd rather avoid. First off, the big thing that sets this model apart is the 3-piece slate playing surface. Slate is the gold standard for billiards because it stays flat over time, which means your shots stay consistent and you won't be fighting the table's own quirks. Playcraft's version comes pre-cut into 3 sections, which is a practical compromise between a full-size single slab and the cheaper MDF alternatives. The downside? Those 3 pieces need to be perfectly aligned during installation, and that's why the manufacturer recommends professional installation. If you're comfortable with a little DIY, you can probably handle the assembly, but getting the slate level and glued just right is a job that most installers charge for, often $300, $400 on top of the table price. So, if you're on a tight budget or you're a renter who can't commit to permanent changes, that extra cost could push this out of reach. Space is another hidden variable. A 7-foot table measures about 84 inches long, and you'll need at least a 4-foot clearance on every side to swing a cue comfortably. That's roughly a 13 by 17-foot rectangle of clear floor space. I measured my own game room, and after accounting for a sofa and a bookshelf, I was left with barely enough room to walk around the table. The takeaway? Before you fall in love with the vintage walnut frame and the 25 cloth color options, double-check the footprint of the room you intend to place it in. If your floor plan is more studio apartment than suburban den, this might end up feeling cramped, and you'll spend more time maneuvering the cue than actually playing. Now, let's talk aesthetics, because that's where the Willow bin really shines. The frame is solid hardwood with a classic, slightly curved design that nods to the 1960s billiard halls you see in movies. It's not just a functional piece, it's a statement. The 25 cloth color choices mean you can match the table to a navy wall, a teal accent, or keep it neutral with a deep green. In a few homes I visited, the table became the focal point of the room, sparking conversation and even doubling as a coffee table when the kids weren't around. If you love the idea of a piece that's both game equipment and decor, that's a big plus. On the practical side, the 3-piece slate does give you a more authentic roll compared to composite surfaces, and the cushions, while not brand name, but still solid rubber, respond well enough for casual to intermediate players. The cue ball doesn't bounce erratically, and the pockets hold the balls without swallowing them. That said, you'll notice a slight softness at the edges of the slate where the 3 sections meet. It's not a deal breaker, but if you're a serious league player who demands a perfectly seamless surface, you might feel that it's a step down from a single slab professional table. You should seriously consider this table. If you have a dedicated game room or a large office that can accommodate the space, and you're looking for a mix of authentic play feel and vintage charm, the Willow bin hits a sweet spot. It's also a solid choice for families who want a durable table that can double as a stylish piece of furniture. Kids can sit around it for board games, and later you can break out the cue for a night of 8-ball. The fact that the slate is replaceable means you can keep the table for years, upgrading the surface if you ever decide to take your game to the next level. Who should walk away? Renters who can't commit to a professional installation, people living in apartments or smaller condos where the required clearances would crowd the room, and anyone who's primarily after a tournament-grade table with a single slab slate and premium cushions. In those cases, you'll likely spend more on installation and possibly on a later upgrade, which defeats the purpose of getting a budget-friendly entry point. A few real-world scenarios might help you picture the fit. Imagine you have a home office that currently feels a bit sterile. Adding a Willow bin with a deep charcoal cloth and a walnut frame can turn it.